It all kicks off with a little kid named Steve who brings us into the wild world of Minecraft. We're talking about the Overworld, the surface of the main world. A never-ending sandbox full of epic stories waiting to be uncovered. Even as a kid, Steve dreamed of becoming the greatest miner in the world, driven by his love for exploring, building, and creating stuff. But every time he tried to go into the local mine, this grumpy old man would block his way. There was a strict rule, no kids allowed, only grown-ups. Time flew by and Steve finally became an adult. But life didn't exactly go as planned. He ended up selling doorknobs for a living. Yep, doorknobs. Same old boring job day in, day out. He felt like his life was slowly going to waste. Then one day, while he eating lunch all alone, he remembered that forgotten dream from when he was a kid. With new fire in his heart, he decided to go back to the mine. This time, nothing and no one was going to stop him. And sure enough, he made it. Even though the old man was still there, Steve pushed through and started digging like crazy, like he was trying to make up for all that lost time. That's when he found two strange artifacts, one crystal cube and another called the Creation Cube. When he put them together, boom, a portal opened up to a magical place, the Overworld. A world where anything was possible. He even came across a pink sheep, and with its wool he built 3 awesome houses, becoming the architect of his own dreams. On his adventures, Steve met a wild wolf who tried to eat him at first. But with one juicy femur bone, he tamed the beast and named him Dennis. From that moment on, they were tight. Together, they built wonders, shaped the world their way, and soon all the animals joined them in peace. Time flew by, building, exploring, discovering, until one day Steve stumbled across some ancient ruins. Inside, a perfectly placed chest. Inside that chest, a new portal. This one led to the underworld known as the Nether, a dark, twisted dimension where creativity didn't exist. It was full of piglins, greedy, ruthless, pig-like creatures, and they all served a powerful sorceress called 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐝. This pig witch had turned evil after a rough childhood. She wanted to be a dancer, but her own kind laughed at her. Even her dad kicked her out, calling her a disgrace. Since then, she's lived off pure hate. 𝐂𝐂𝐫𝐿 was obsessed with the Creation Cube. She wanted it to rule every world out there, but Steve, smart and brave, managed to escape with the orb. He gave it to Dennis with one mission, take it back to Earth and hide it where no one would ever find it. Dennis nailed it. He crossed through worlds and hid the most powerful artifact in existence under Steve's waterbed. As long as it stays there, the main world's safe. Years later, we meet Garrett Garrison, a young dude who changed the whole video game scene by becoming the star of a hit arcade game. He had this insane skill, throwing trash with laser precision, that earned him the nickname, the Trash Man. He got so famous, he even landed $1 million deal. He had it all, until one day he got hit with an eviction notice. Just like that, fate dragged him from the top, straight to rock bottom. Now, Garrett's completely broke. So yeah, Garrett, broke and desperate for a comeback, hits up this local auction, hoping to score something he could flip for cash. One of the staff tips him off about some old artifact that's supposedly super valuable. Curious, Garrett says he'll consider buying it if they can cut him a better deal and let him check it out a little more. The auction kicks off, and after a short bidding war, Garrett walks away with a mystery item for $900, agreeing to pay it off in 6 months. But when he opens the box, total letdown, looked completely empty. Frustrated and thinking he got scammed, he slammed the lid shut without realizing the Creation Cube was right there, hidden in plain sight. Blinded by disappointment, he didn't even notice. Someone nearby, hearing him vent about being flat broke, told him maybe it was time to stop chasing treasure at sketchy auctions. Meanwhile, we meet Henry and his big sister Natalie. They just moved to the city after their mom passed away. Natalie, trying to get back on her feet, picked up a modest job that covered rent. At their new place, they were greeted by Dawn, a friendly real estate agent who welcomed them with kind words and a warm vibe. The next morning, Natalie made breakfast for Henry, a pizza to share with his new classmates. She even gave him a bottle of cologne just to show some love. But Henry, still shaken by all the change and grief, barely said thanks and headed out for his first day of school. Elsewhere was cleaning out old junk from his shop when Henry walked in. The kid, curious, offered him a slice of pizza in exchange for some advice. Garrett, who liked to call himself the salesman of the game of life, told him his wisdom cost $50 an hour. Joking around, he dropped some real talk. Friends are like puzzles. Sometimes you've got all the pieces and sometimes you're missing just one to feel whole. He also told him, you can't be a team by yourself, but with just one more, you can beat anything. Inspired, Henry left the pizza and made his way to class. At school, he met the principal who handed him his name tag. During their chat, she randomly shared that her marriage had been dead for years, but they stayed together just for the love of their dogs. Later, Henry entered his classroom where the teacher, super sarcastic, complained to the students about how much he hated his life. As class started, they began a group project. Henry made a mistake placing a part wrong, and suddenly the jetpack prototype went haywire. Right at that moment, Natalie, working nearby, got caught off guard when the out-of-control gadget came crashing down on her building. The principal freaked out, demanded to speak with Henry's guardian. Panicking, Henry called up Garrett and begged him to pretend to be his uncle. As soon as Garrett heard Henry had $26 in cash, he was all in. While trying to explain things to the principal, Henry spotted the strange cube in the back of Garrett's shop and asked about it. Garrett just shrugged and said he was selling it for $95, had no clue what it actually did. But then, while digging through some boxes, they found an old instruction manual. One warning stood out in huge letters. Under no circumstances should the orb and the crystal cube be combined. It even added, "Never, not even if you're broke, open the cube just because you think there's treasure hiding inside." Naturally being curious and totally ignoring the warning, the two decided to check it out. They headed to an abandoned mine to see if the thing had any kind of power, not knowing they were about to kick off an adventure that would change their lives forever. Meanwhile, Natalie noticed Henry wasn't home. Worried and out of options, she called up the real estate agent, Dawn. Using a tracking app, Dawn managed to locate him. He was exploring an old abandoned mine. Without wasting a second, they rushed over to find him. When they arrived, they saw something wild and seriously dangerous. The mysterious cube was glowing, shooting out this strange energy that was pulling Henry toward it. Without thinking twice, they all grabbed onto him. And just like that, one after another, they got sucked into the vortex and crossed through the portal straight into the overworld. Stunned by the new universe around them, Garrett proudly introduced himself as a gaming legend from back in '89. Soon after, they came across the iconic pink sheep staring at them curiously, but they weren't alone. A villager who'd seen the portal open had decided to follow them, crossing over into Earth, starting a wild new connection between worlds. Meanwhile, deep in the grim and empty nether, the piglins were totally fed up with digging and finding zero gold. 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐝 was on a rampage again, threatening them with something worse than death. If they didn't strike it rich soon, she'd turn them into juicy pork chops. Just then, she picked up a signal. The orb's portal was starting to reactivate. She rushed to confront Steve, who was still her prisoner. She knew he was the one who stole the orb. Without much drama, she let him go, but gave him one brutal condition. If he wanted to save his beloved wolf, Dennis, he had to return what belonged to her. Back in the overworld, Garrett was trying way too hard to impress the pink sheep, begging her to give him missions to find gold. Time passed. Nothing happened. Then out of nowhere, Dennis the wolf came charging in, let out a mighty howl, and the pink sheep backed away. The whole area went silent, but that silence didn't last. Creepy sounds started rising. Hunter skeletons, giant spiders, zombies, and creepers came crawling out of the shadows, attacking with full force. While everyone ran for their lives, Henry didn't freeze up. He used his smots and started building with blocks, creating defenses to protect the others. Garrett. He hid until a creeper blew up right near him, leaving him dazed. His scream gave away his spot, and soon zombies had him surrounded. In the chaos, the pink sheep was also captured. Just in time, the rest of the group showed up to help Garrett. The fight was intense, until out of nowhere, Steve arrived like a total hero. With insane skill, he wiped out all the enemies, leaving everyone speechless. Then the sun began to rise, and just like clockwork, the zombies burned up in the morning light. Steve told them he was there for the Orb of Dominion. He made them a deal. He'd help them get back to Earth, but in return, he'd keep the orb. Without the crystal cube, there was no way to travel back safely, so they'd either have to get it back or find the one and only other way. Meanwhile, the villager who followed them through the portal got hit by the school principal's jeep. She'd been driving distracted, embarrassed, and worried about a lawsuit. She quickly tried to play it cool, offering him dinner and saying, "Everybody's trying to sue me these days, but you seem like a reasonable guy." Back with the kids, the group arrived at a quiet village, home to peaceful and curious villagers. They also met some new characters, a legendary pig, a wise llama, and a giant iron golem who kept the place safe with honor and strength. To recharge, they all sat down for a roast chicken meal. Steve, ever the cautious one, warned them the chicken had been cooked over lava, still sizzling hot. But Garrett, too proud to admit weakness, ignored the warning, took a massive bite, and powered through the pain just to save face in front of everyone. Back in the nether, 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐝 was losing it. Tired of constant failure, she summoned the most powerful general in her army, 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐝, the strongest and ironically kindest piglin of them all. She told him that 4 strangers, the roundies as she called them, had the orb. Before sending him out, she gave him a nether wart, a special talisman to stop him and his troops from turning into zombified bacon along the way. No more messing around. She gave the order, get the orb, whatever it takes. Meanwhile, in the overworld, the group kept heading toward the legendary mansion. Along the way, they got access to Steve's inventory, a magical space packed with tools, gadgets, and all kinds of cool stuff. That's where they found the Ender Pearl, an epic item that lets you teleport to wherever you toss it. Of course, Garrett, being Garrett, used it right away, not realizing it was the last one they had. Later, Steve showed them how to craft tools with materials from the world. Feeling inspired, Garrett built his own weapon. Kinda clunky, but it worked. Sort of. Henry, on the other hand, combined random real-world junk with Minecraft gear and somehow built something surprisingly useful. Later, Garrett pulled Steve aside for a chat. He admitted he had read the note hidden inside the orb and straight up asked about the rumored treasure. Steve came clean. Yeah, he had a stash of diamonds, but they were deep, deep in the mines, far from the mansion. Getting to them would be a serious risk, but Garrett didn't blink. He looked him dead in the eye and said, "No diamonds, no orb." So after the mines they went. Just as they were about to head out, boom. The piglins showed up. General Chungus introduced himself to Steve, polite but with a tone that said, "I could kill you in a blink." As usual, Steve tried to take charge, but Garrett, feeling a little jealous and craving some spotlight, jumped in. Armed with his goofy DIY weapon, he charged at Chungus and missed completely, smacking Steve instead. Chungus not even scratched. Chaos broke out. Everyone split up in the fight. Natalie and Dawn ended up in one group, while the boys, Garrett and Henry, got separated. Before they split, they agreed to meet up at the mansion. To help them escape, Steve handed out special flight wings, but only had 2 pairs. So in a surprise move, he tackled Garrett and took off with him, flying together. What followed was a full-on aerial chase. They zipped through walls, dodged sharp attacks, pulled off wild stunts, trying to outrun the piglin army. At one point, they flew over a peaceful field full of sleepy pandas, totally unaware of the madness happening above. Finally, Garrett and Steve activated water drop mode, splashing down into a lake, perfectly safe, not a single scratch on them. Back on Earth, the school principal was enjoying a surprise date with the villager she hit with her Jeep. Over dinner, she admitted she'd just gotten divorced, said her ex-husband just didn't have a personality. Meanwhile, in the Overworld, Steve opened up about 𝐂𝐫𝐿𝐵𝐿. Back in the day, she dreamed of being a world-class dancer. Her moves were smooth, stylish, way ahead of Nether's stiff traditions, but her dad kicked her out, humiliated by her passion. After that, she swore off beauty and creativity forever. Now, if she gets the orb, she'll destroy the Overworld, along with all its innocent creatures. But Steve was torn. He needed the orb to save his beloved wolf, Denel, still being held hostage by 𝐂𝐂𝐫𝐿𝐵𝐿, back in the Eneva. Meanwhile, the girls, Natalie and the real estate agent, Dawn, have an unexpected run-in. They come face to face with none other than Dennis, Steve's legendary wolf. Recognizing him, Dawn cleverly offers him a bone to earn his trust. The wolf, touched by the gesture, lets them come closer. Knowing he belongs to Steve, they decide to follow Dennis, hoping he'll lead them straight to the rest of the crew. Back underground, the guys finally reach the depths where the precious diamonds are hidden. But then Steve, with his sharp miner's nose, picks up something foul, a scent he knows too well, the unmistakable stench of a netherwart, and that can only mean one thing. The great pig is here. Steve's waist-knotted tensions boil over. Henry snaps at Garrett, furious that they lost the diamonds. Garrett, bitter and burned out, shoots back coldly. "I need those diamonds. It's the only way I stop being broke. You wouldn't get it. You're just a kid." But Henry locks eyes with him and replies, "Yeah, I'm a kid, but you're not alone. I'm your friend." Garrett goes quiet. Moved by Henry's words, something shifts. A new bond forms. Together they start planning. A mansion heist. According to Steve, the place has 3 levels. First floor, guarded by battle-trained villagers. Tough, disciplined, no nonsense. Second floor, controlled by evokers, dark mages who can summon pure nightmares. Top floor, that's where the Enderman crystal is, and it's guarded by Enderman himself, a killer who can take you out with just one look. Before they can make a move, the villagers ambush the adults and drag them into an underground fight club, the kind with brutal no-rules brawls. Steve, watching from the shadows, stays hidden. Garrett, forced into the ring, gets shoved to the center. His opponent, a tiny zombie rider, mounts on a vicious, bloodthirsty chicken. It looks ridiculous, but the little guy fights like a demon. Meanwhile, Henry manages to sneak his way up to the 3rd floor vault. The room is dark, eerie, and there, waiting for him, Enderman. With no way out, Henry grips his diamond sword and charges in. The battle is wild, but with guts and skill, Henry comes out on top, and for his victory, he claims his prize, the teleportation sphere, a mystical item that lets him jump instantly across the Overworld, and maybe, just maybe, even beyond. After making it out of the mansion, exhausted but so close to finishing their mission, the group runs right into their worst nightmare, 𝐂𝐂𝐫𝐿𝐵𝐿. The piglin witch had tracked them down using the orb's magical scent. With a wicked grin, she snatches the creation cube and the Enderman crystal. No fight, no warning, just arrogance. She vanishes into the Nether's shadows like she's already won. Crushed, Steve and Henry try to run, knowing there's no way to get the artifacts back. But Garrett doesn't move. He stares ahead, eyes burning with defiance. "If I'm going down," he says, "then I'm going down with style." He throws his arms up and yells, "This calls for some heavy metal." And with that, he sets off a massive explosion, a last-ditch sacrifice to stop 𝐂𝐂𝐫𝐿𝐵𝐿 from wiping them out right then and there. The shockwave blasts everyone apart. The boys, bruised and barely conscious, land among the rubble. Moments later, Dennis finds Steve and nudges him awake. Steve gets up slowly. In the distance, Henry stirs. He's hurting, but alive. Amid the devastation, they spot a strange little structure, a cozy mushroom house, Dawn had built it as a quick shelter. Reunited with Natalie and Dawn, the group realizes just how bad things have gotten. Darkness is spreading across the overworld. 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐻's power is swallowing everything. It's time for Garrett. For the world. For everything they've been through, they decide to fight back. They start crafting new tools, stronger, smarter. Henry, holding the teleportation sphere, lays out a plan. He modifies the iron golems, upgrading them with super speed modules. Now they've got an army of raging metal giants ready to take on the Nether Horde. 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐻 sees them coming and laughs. Golems don't fight unless they're provoked, but one reckless little piglin throws the first punch, and that's all it takes. The golems snap and the war begins. Furious, 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐻 unleashes her deadliest weapon, the Great Pig. But she didn't expect this. The heroes had built their own ultimate golem, even bigger and stronger, made from a secret alloy. The two beasts clash in a thunderous showdown that shakes the overworld to its core. Meanwhile, Steve confronts 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐻. He's armored head to toe in hand-carved diamond plates, wielding a massive diamond blade. He looks like a legend, but 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐻 doesn't flinch. She knows her dark magic beats any blade. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Henry fights his way toward the Orb of Dominion, while Natalie ends up alone. Just as the Great Pig breaks free from the golem fight, he charges. She's got no way to run. But before the worst can happen, a voice rings out. It's Dawn, standing tall on a hilltop, surrounded by a pack of wild wolves she's somehow tamed and united. With one sharp whistle, she commands the attack. The wolves launch at the Great Pig, starting a wild primal brawl. Then, in the middle of the chaos, the Great Pig, raging with fury, fires a deadly beam straight at Henry. He's hit, falls, the battlefield goes silent. Everyone freezes, until from the smoke and flames, Garrett returns, rising from the ashes like a phoenix. He rushes in, grabs Henry, and pulls him to safety. With what strength they have left, the heroes regroup. They tear apart 𝐂𝐫𝐻's dark machinery and hurl the Orb of Dominion into the abyss. Suddenly, light begins to shine again. The overworld breathes. Balance is returning. But just as the orb falls, the Great Pig catches it. All hope seems lost until the ultimate golem unleashes a devastating final blow, slamming the beast and reclaiming the orb once and for all. With the orb back in their hands, it's time for the final showdown. Steve steps up to face 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐻. She's weak, cornered, defeated. He looks her dead in the eyes. It's over, lost. But even now she tries to trick him. 3 times she lunges, knife hidden. 3 times he blocks her. Steve knows the fight is over, but instead of finishing her off, he walks away. He leaves her alive to live with the shame of her failure. With the threat finally neutralized, Steve says his goodbyes to the crew. He turns to Henry and offers him a place in the overworld, a chance to stay and start a new life. But Henry smiles and shakes his head. He's going home. Steve respects the decision. He reunites with Dennis, his loyal wolf, but then surprises everyone. He kneels beside Dennis and hands the leash to Dawn. He needs a peaceful life, and so do you, Steve says with a soft smile. Then he hugs Garrett, calls him a true friend and a brave warrior. He thanks Natalie and Dawn for their courage. He watches them step through the portal one by one. And just when he's about to head back to his quiet life in the overworld, Steve pauses. He looks around, thinks for a second, and with fresh determination, he walks through the portal to Earth. Days later, everything's changed. Garrett's leveled up big time. His shop, now a total hotspot. He's a master of hustle and gaming. Together with the squad, they launched a brand new video game based on their wild adventure. Life couldn't be better. Dawn ditched real estate and lives for adventure now. With Dennis by her side, they bring the party wherever they go. Just like her new catchphrase says, Natalie opened her own self-defense school. Now she's a local hero, a community icon. And Henry, he finally got that jetpack working, soaring through the skies, living his dream. And that's how this story ends. Or is it? Cue the post-credit scene. Turns out love blossomed between the villager and the school principal. Now he speaks fluent human, and she learned villager. Ever since they met that wild night, he's had one thing on his mind. He takes her hand, gets down on one knee, and pops the question. He proposes, and that's how the story ends. Thanks for watching.